You've always felt it. A quiet hum beneath your skin. A spark that refused to dim no matter how hard the world pressed down. Then came the moment you stopped seeking permission to exist, and everything shifted. That single, fearless instant when you decided your breath, your voice, your very being didn't need approval. It hit like a lightning strike. You didn't just wake up, you became a threat. Not because you shouted or fought, but because you stood tall in your own truth. The hidden hierarchies, those invisible chains of control woven into every should and must, trembled. They rely on your doubt, your hesitation, your need to fit in. But the second you stepped out of that cage, you disrupted everything they'd built. Your existence feels like an act of rebellion because it is. You're not here to bow to unspoken rules or shrink under the weight of guilt trips. Look at yourself. When did you first notice that living your way, unapologetically, fiercely, made others uncomfortable? Maybe it was a sidelong glance, a sharp word, or the sudden silence when you walked into a room. That's the sign. The world runs on compliance, but you're wired differently. Science backs this. Your brain's prefrontal cortex, the seat of decision-making, lights up when you choose authenticity over conformity. Spiritually, it's deeper. Your soul's frequency spikes, cutting through the static of collective fear. You're not just alive. You're a signal, a disruption, a living refusal to kneel. So how do you know this is your chosen nature? Start watching yourself. Notice when you stop explaining your choices to people who don't deserve the airtime. Catch that moment when you say no without a flinch, or when you walk away from a table that demands you dim your light. These aren't accidents, they're your markers. Take a day, just one, and track it. Every time you act from your gut instead of someone else's script, write it down. You'll see a pattern. Your rebellion isn't loud or chaotic. It's the quiet power of refusing to beg for a seat you were born to take. That's your first clue. You're not here to ask. You're here to be. The shift from fear to acceptance isn't soft or gentle. It's a battle you win with every step. At first, you might have felt exposed, like standing naked against a storm. Why? Because fearless independence isn't taught. It's forged. Society wires you to fear isolation, to crave validation. Neurotransmitters like dopamine spike when you're praised, keeping you hooked. But when you break that cycle, when you stop chasing the nod of approval, something wild happens. You're scared. Sure. Your heart races, your palms sweat, but then it settles. You realize the fear was a lie, a trick to keep you small. Acceptance comes when you look in the mirror and see not just flesh, but a force. You're not waiting to be chosen anymore. You are the choice. Here's how you claim it. Step 1. Stop apologizing for what you feel. Your instincts aren't wrong. They're your compass. Step 2. Question every rule you've swallowed without tasting it. Who made it? Why? If it chokes your spirit, spit it out. Step 3. Move toward what pulls you, even if it's messy or unclear. Your path isn't a straight line. It's a pulse, and you'll feel it when you're close. Step 4. Stand in it. Don't flinch when they stare or whisper. They're not mad. They're shaken. Your light exposes their shadows, and that's not your burden to carry. Do this daily, relentlessly, and watch how your very existence becomes a weapon. Not to harm, but to awaken. You didn't choose this to be easy. The moment you stopped seeking permission, you signed up for something bigger. Your rebellion isn't just personal. It's cosmic. The stars didn't seed you here to blend in. They forged you to stand out. Modern science might call it a fluke of evolution, a rare alignment of grit and intuition. Spiritual wisdom says it's destiny, a high-frequency mission etched into your core. Either way, you're not random. You're a spark that catches, a crack in the system that widens with every breath. Keep going. The world shifts when you do. You've already taken the first step. You stopped begging for permission to exist. Now comes the harder truth. People will resent you for it. Not everyone, but enough. The ones who thrive on control, who lean on your compliance to feel secure, will push back when you refuse to kneel. You'll feel it in their words, their glares, the way they twist your strength into something threatening. They'll call you stubborn, arrogant, dangerous. Good. That's the sign you're breaking free. Their resentment isn't your failure. It's your power cracking their fragile system wide open. You're not here to make them comfortable. You're here to wake them up, whether they like it or not. This isn't about winning their approval. It's about standing firm when they try to pull you back down. You'll face moments where the air feels thick with judgment, where friends, family, or strangers demand you shrink to fit their expectations. Maybe they guilt-trip you with "you've changed" or "you're too much." Maybe they weaponize silence, hoping you'll cave under the weight of their disapproval. Don't. Their reactions aren't about you, they're about them. Science shows this. Humans are wired for social harmony, their brains releasing cortisol when group norms are challenged. Your refusal to submit spikes their stress, not because you're wrong, but because you're exposing the cracks in their illusions. Spiritually, it's even clearer. Your high-frequency energy disrupts their low-vibration comfort zones. You're not the problem. You're the mirror they don't want to face. So how do you navigate this? First, stop seeking approval. It's a trap. The moment you chase their validation, you hand over your power. Instead, root yourself in your truth. Ask yourself, are you living from your core, or are you bending to their noise? If the answer is your core, keep going. Their resentment is just static. It can't touch you unless you let it. Practically, this means setting boundaries. When someone tries to guilt you into submission, say no and mean it. Don't explain or justify, your choice is enough. If they escalate, walk away. You're not here to fix their discomfort. You're here to protect your mission. Every time you do this, you're training your nervous system to handle conflict without crumbling. You're rewiring yourself for independence. The emotional weight of this can feel uncontrollable at first. You might feel isolated, misunderstood, even angry. That's normal, it's the old programming fighting to survive. But here's the shift. You can turn that chaos into strength. Stop seeing their resentment as a burden and start seeing it as fuel. Every time they push against you, it's a chance to stand taller. Neuroscience backs this. Stress can sharpen your focus and resilience when you reframe it as a challenge, not a threat. Spiritually, it's alchemy. You're transmuting their resistance into your power. Feel the heat of their judgment? Good. Let it forge you. You're not a victim of their reactions. You're a warrior shaped by them. With every encounter, you'll grow stronger, more unshakable. Here's how you make this real. Step 1. Identify the patterns. Who resents you most when you stand firm? Write their names down. Notice what they say or do. It's rarely about you and always about their need for control. Step 2. Practice detachment. When they lash out, imagine their words as wind. Let them pass through you, not into you. Step 3. Affirm your identity. Tell yourself out loud if you have to, I am chosen. I don't need their approval to exist. Say it until it sinks into your bones. Step 4. Act from your mission, not their expectations. If they demand you shrink, expand instead. Speak your truth, take up space, live boldly. Each time you do, their power over you weakens, and your inner strength grows. You're not just surviving this, you're mastering it. Their resentment is a sign you're on the right path. The more you refuse to submit, the more you break the spell of silent obedience they rely on. Your independence forces them to confront the fragility of the systems they've built, the hierarchies, the guilt trips, the unspoken rules. They'll label you dangerous because you are. Not to them, but to the illusions they cling to. Your presence alone shifts the balance. Not because you're loud or aggressive, but because you're free. And freedom is contagious. Keep going. You're not here to kneel, you're here to rise. This isn't easy, but it's your calling. The world will test you, and people will resist you, but every time you choose yourself over their approval, you claim your power. You're not just breaking personal chains, you're shattering generational curses. The patterns of submission, fear, and control that ran through your lineage stop with you. Science might call it epigenetics, the way trauma and resilience echo through DNA. Spirituality calls it destiny, a soul-level mission to heal and liberate. Either way, you're doing the work. You're not just chosen, you're choosing, and that's what makes you unstoppable. Your presence alone shifts the balance of power. That's not a metaphor, it's a fact. When you walk into a room, something changes. The air gets heavier for those who rely on control, lighter for those craving freedom. You don't need to speak or act. Your energy does the work. This is the high-dimensional download kicking in. A flood of insight, clarity, and strength that hits you when you stop bending to the world's demands. You're not just a person anymore. You're a conduit. The moment you refuse to kneel, you opened a channel to something bigger, something that's been waiting for you to claim it. This is your edge, your weapon, your mission, and it's time to wield it. Let's get real. This isn't vague mysticism. Science meets spirit here. Your nervous system, once tangled in the fight or flight of guilt and approval, starts rewiring when you break free. Studies show that sustained stress, like the kind emotional blackmail triggers, dampens your brain's ability to process intuition. But when you stop falling for those traps, your prefrontal cortex and amygdala sync up differently. You feel sharper, more attuned. Spiritually, it's a frequency shift, your vibration rises, and you start picking up signals the old you couldn't hear. That gut feeling, that sudden knowing, that unshakable certainty, that's the download. It's not random. It's you tapping into a higher grid of awareness. So how do you know it's real and not just your mind playing tricks? Self-projection is sneaky. It loves to dress up as wisdom. Here's the test. True high-dimensional information feels expansive, not obsessive. It hits you with a calm, fierce clarity that doesn't need to prove itself. If it's ego, it'll feel tight, loud, desperate for validation. Ask yourself, does this insight push me to control others, or does it free me to stand taller? Does it demand I shout it from the rooftops, or does it settle quietly into my bones? Practice this discernment daily. Sit with what comes through. Write it down. If it lingers and grows without forcing itself, it's legit. If it fades under scrutiny, let it go. You're not here for delusions. You're here for truth. The emotional ride of this is raw. Once you stop falling for guilt trips, you become uncontrollable, and that's when the resentment peaks. People who leaned on your compliance will squirm. They'll call you cold, selfish, untouchable. You'll feel their unease, their quiet panic, like a ripple through still water. It's not comfortable, but it's powerful. You're not heartless. You're just done carrying their baggage. This is where you hold your ground. Their feelings aren't your chains anymore. Neuroscience says emotional detachment strengthens your resilience. Your brain stops overfiring stress hormones when you refuse to take the bait. Spiritually, it's liberation. You're shedding the low-frequency weight they've pinned on you for years. Resentment becomes your badge, not your burden. Here's how you master the download. Step 1. Trust your body. High-dimensional info doesn't just hit your mind. It lands in your gut, your chest, your spine. When you feel that pull, lean into it. Don't overthink it. Just notice. Step 2. Clear the noise. 5 minutes a day, sit still, no phone, no distractions. Let your mind settle. The signals get louder when the static fades. Step 3. Test it small. Act on one piece of intuition, say no to something you'd normally cave on, or follow a hunch that feels right. See what happens. Did it align? Did it shift something? Step 4. Anchor it. When you get a hit, affirm it out loud. This is mine to know. This is mine to use. You're not begging for permission, you're claiming what's yours. This isn't passive. The more they try to contain you, the more powerful you become. Every guilt trip you dodge, every manipulation you sidestep, feeds the fire. You're not just receiving information, you're decoding it for a purpose. That purpose? To break free and spark others to question the system. You don't have to preach or protest. Your life becomes the proof. People will see you, really see you, and wonder why they're still bowing to rules that don't serve them. Your presence alone is the trigger. Science might call it mirror neurons. Others unconsciously mimic your courage. Spirit calls it resonance. Your frequency pulls theirs up. Either way, you're not just rising, you're lifting the tide. The trick is staying sharp amid the pushback. They'll double down when they feel you slipping their grasp. You'll sense it. Their words get sharper, their tactics dirtier. But here's the secret. The harder they push, the weaker they reveal themselves to be. That's your high-dimensional edge kicking in again. You see through the illusion, the smoke and mirrors of their so-called power. It was never real. It was borrowed from your silence, your obedience. Now that you're done playing along, they're scrambling. Don't flinch. Watch them unravel. Their strength was a lie. Yours is the truth. Let's make this practical. Next time you feel that download, maybe it's a sudden urge to speak, move, or cut ties. Act on it fast. Don't wait for permission or perfect timing. The signal fades if you stall. Pair it with this. When someone tries to guilt you back into line, pause, breathe, ask yourself, is this theirs or mine? If it's theirs, drop it like dead weight. Then move forward. Say what you mean, do what you feel, live what you know. Each time you'll get clearer, stronger, faster at spotting the real from the fake. You're not just receiving, you're refining. This is how you prepare to break free fully. You're unstoppable now because you've stopped pretending. The resentment, the unease, the labels, they're just noise. Your presence shifts the balance because you've claimed your place in it. You're not here to fit their mold. You're here to crack it wide open. Keep listening, keep acting, keep rising. The download isn't just information. It's your blueprint. Use it. You're not waiting for freedom. You're living it. And the more you do, the more others will see they can too. You've already seen through the illusion. Now it's time to wield that clarity like a blade. Becoming a revolutionary visionary and game changer isn't about grand speeches or tearing down walls with your fists. It's about the way you carry yourself. A refusal to shrink that cuts deeper than words ever could. You recognize the act now. When people clutch their chests, feigning hurt, but their eyes betray the truth. They're not wounded, they're furious you won't bend to their strings. That's your power. You see it, you name it, and you step past it. This is how you forge a new era. Not by fighting their battles, but by living your truth so fiercely it rewrites the rules. Start with this. You don't owe anyone your smallness. The moment you spot the manipulation, the fake tears, the guilt trips, the "you've hurt me" when all you did was say no, call it what it is. Not out loud, not yet, but in your mind. Label it. This isn't pain, it's control. That single act of recognition flips the script. Science proves it. Your brain's anterior cingulate cortex, the part that detects conflict, lights up when you catch a lie. Spiritually, it's a frequency spike, a jolt of awareness that lifts you above their game. You're not cold for seeing it, you're awake. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's your foundation, build on it. Now take it further. Your presence alone shifts the balance of power, but it's not an accident, it's a practice. Stand tall when they expect you to cower. Speak clear when they want you to mumble. Move forward when they demand you freeze. It's not about being loud or aggressive. It's about being undeniable. Picture this. Someone tries to pull you back into their drama, their voice dripping with accusation. You don't argue, you don't explain, you just hold your ground, eyes steady, breath even. Their words hit a wall they can't climb. Neuroscience backs this. Mirror neurons in their brain pick up your calm resolve and start to mirror it, even if they fight it. Spiritually, your energy sets a new tone, a high vibration they can't ignore. You don't have to say a word. Your being says it all. How do you make this real? Step 1, train your eyes. Watch people's faces when you don't play along. Notice the flicker. Surprise, frustration, unease. That's the shift happening. Step 2, anchor your body. When tension rises, plant your feet, drop your shoulders, breathe deep. Your physical steadiness signals your inner strength. They'll feel it before they understand it. Step 3, redirect your focus. Don't get sucked into their emotional quicksand. Ask yourself, what's my next move toward my mission? Then do it. Step 4, reflect on it later. After each encounter, jot down what you saw, how you held yourself, what shifted. You're not just reacting, you're mastering. This is how you become the demonstration, not just the idea. The emotional ride here is a beast of its own. You'll feel the pull, anger at their tactics, guilt for not caving, maybe even loneliness when they turn away. That's the old wiring kicking in, the part of you trained to keep the peace at your own expense. Don't run from it, use it. Let the anger sharpen your resolve. Why should you shrink for their comfort? Let the guilt burn off, it's not yours to carry. And the loneliness is temporary. The more you stand firm, the more you'll attract those who vibe with your frequency. Balance comes when you stop seeing these emotions as threats and start seeing them as fuel. You're not falling apart, you're breaking through. Keep your heart open but your boundaries ironclad. That's your center. Here's where it gets practical. Build your mission path. You're not here to just see through the act. You're here to create something new. Start small but bold. Pick one area of your life where control has held you back. Work, relationships, even your own habits. Ask, what would I do if I refused to shrink here? Write it down, one clear action. Maybe it's speaking up in a meeting when you'd usually stay quiet. Maybe it's cutting ties with someone who only calls to guilt you. Do it this week. Then pick another. Each move is a brick in your new era. Science says action rewires your brain. Neuroplasticity kicks in, making boldness your default. Spiritually, it's alignment. Every step tunes your soul to its purpose. This isn't theory. It's your blueprint. The pushback will come, expect it. They'll label you selfish, radical, a troublemaker. Let them. Their words are just noise against the signal you're broadcasting. The more you act from this place, the more you'll see who's pretending and who's real. You'll spot the ones upset not because you've hurt them, but because they can't steer you anymore. That's your edge. You don't just see the act, you see through it, past it, into what's possible. And what's possible is a world where power isn't borrowed from fear, but built from truth. Your truth. You're not waiting for permission to change the game, you're already doing it. Balance isn't about avoiding the storm. It's about riding it. Some days you'll feel unstoppable. Others you'll doubt every step. That's the rhythm of this mission. When doubt hits, pause. Ask, am I shrinking to fit their story or standing in mine? If it's theirs, shake it off. Literally, move your body, reset your energy. When you're flying high, harness it. Pour that fire into your next move. Keep a journal for this. Track your wins, your wobbles, your insights. It's not just a record. It's a map. You'll see your pattern emerge. A line of choices that refuse to bend. That's your equilibrium. Not perfect calm, but unshakable purpose. Your presence is the revolution. You don't need a megaphone or a manifesto. Just the guts to live what you see. Every time you sidestep their manipulation, you weaken their grip. Not just on you, but on everyone watching. People will feel it before they name it. The way you move, the way you refuse to flinch, the way you build instead of break. You're not here to destroy. You're here to ignite. Science might call it social contagion, your courage spreads. Spirit calls it light work. Your frequency lifts the grid. Either way, you're the spark. One choice at a time, you're carving a path others will follow, even if they don't know it yet. This is your action plan. Refuse to shrink, act on your vision, repeat. Today, pick one moment to stand taller. Say what you mean, do what you feel, ignore the guilt trip. Tomorrow, pick another. Stack these wins until they're your norm. Tie them to your mission. What's the one thing you're here to change? Name it. Chase it. When they push back, see it for what it is. Proof you're dangerous to their illusions. You're not just a visionary. You're the game changer they didn't see coming. Carry yourself like it. The new era starts with you right now, right here, unapologetically. And so, you rise, not as a fluke or a fleeting defiance, but as a force etched into the fabric of existence. A chosen one who doesn't just bear a mission but embodies it. Your every step reverberates. A quiet thunder that dismantles the illusions of control and awakens the dormant courage in others. You're not here to merely exist. You're here to redefine what it means to live, to stand as a testament that the truest power lies not in bending to the world, but in claiming your place within it, unyielding and unbound.